Kol Nidre. All vows I have made and dedicated myself to, all truth and certainty I have sworn, I now regret and nullify. That's what we prayed in opening tonight's service. The question is, can we step away from unwavering conviction and cultivate curiosity instead? Imagine where we might be in the core of our grief if we understood that we are but a sentence in the story of our own people, and that there are other stories, each written by God and bearing the unmistakable trace of God's handwriting. A poem by Israeli poet and translator Felice Miriam Khan Ziskin. In Jerusalem, on the eve of the new year, honey jars instead of parking tickets on the windshields near the wiper greeted our return to the old Toyota and the new hybrid left just outside Dungate. Everyone's destiny intertwined, metamorphosis on our lips. We can heal with words. In our hearts, heaven can happen. Ziskin's poem plays on famous and beloved verses from Psalm 122. Sha'alu shalom Yerushalayim, yishla'u ohavayich. Yehi shalom b'chelkech, v'chelech, shalva ba'armenotayich. Lema'an achai v're'ai, adabrana shalom bach. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May those who love you be serene. May there be peace within your ramparts, serenity within your citadels. For the sake of my kin and my companions, I pray for your peace. The key to healing lies in the single letter that connects our kin and our neighbors, and making sure I pray to protect my family and all other families. How can we build bridges for peace in Jerusalem and everywhere else? By concentrating on the and. This not so radical idea of empathy beyond borders is already alluded to in the Talmud's reading of Psalm 122. The psalm begins by sharing the excitement of pilgrims who reach the holy city, which is then named Yerushalayim Shechubrala Yachdav, Jerusalem, a city knit together of disparate peoples, stories, and truths. The Talmud notes that this is the city that has the potential to bring people together, and adds a wistful note on behalf of God, who says, I will not settle in the celestial Jerusalem above until I am able to reside in the Jerusalem below. In other words, until there is peace building between people and peoples, there will be no peace streaming from above. We'll only know peace when we figure out how to create it. Rav Kook, who became chief rabbi of Palestine in 1921 and was a passionate early Zionist, said, true peace cannot come into the world except by means of the value of a piece of many faces. A piece of many faces means that all sides and approaches are seen, and it becomes clear how there is a place for all of them, each one according to its perspective. Let's take Rav Kook at his word. A piece of many faces could be the cornerstone of a new Zionism. This is because in Machloket L'Shem Shamayim, dissonance arising from disagreement between parties who are well-intentioned, there is no unilateral truth. In 2005, Stephen Colbert became the host of the late-night talk show, The Colbert Report. During his first show, Colbert introduced the word truthiness, using it to express a kind of truth that is derived from a visceral feeling without intellectual examination. Truthiness is what I say is right and nothing anyone else says could possibly be true. Reb Nachman taught that one who always wants to be victorious is very intolerant of truth. The truth may be staring him in the face, but because he's determined to prevail, he ignores it. If you want to find the real and delicate and messy truth, you're going to have to suspend your urge to win. Then you'll be able to see it if you wish. We are watching families and spiritual communities fracture over staunchly held positions of right and true. Our social worlds are growing smaller because colleagues and acquaintances and former friends cannot abide sharing space with folks they disagree with. Some of us are pulling away from the discomfort of sharing space with people whose truth is anathema to ours. Some of us are already mourning the mounting losses. But even if in the heat of it we don't notice, one day, sooner rather than later, I suspect, we'll be sorry we weren't more humble, curious, patient, and tolerant. Jewish tradition understands truth to be situational, and we ourselves are part of the situation. Our local friend, Alan Marinis, teaches that truth involves not only speaking accurately, but even more important and earlier in the process, seeing accurately, perceiving accurately. And since truths are often multiple, so must be our perspectives. I had a chavruta, a study partner in rabbinical school, who took it upon herself as a religious practice to consistently argue positions she diametrically opposed. Her aspiration was to grow her capacity to see a situation from the vantage point of the other. Rabbi Arthur Green has taught that truth is a broad tent. Falsehood, sheker in Hebrew, is spelled shin kuf taf, 3 letters at the very end of the alphabet. Green says they are like a cabal cloistered in the corner whispering nastiness. But truth, emet, spelled aleph, mem, taf, the first, the middle, and the last letters of the alphabet, span a spectrum. This is to remind us that truth is not one-sided. It includes all sides of a story, even the quiet voices. Emet is never extreme. There are, of course, indisputable facts. Deborah Lipstadt, our great defender against Holocaust deniers, wants us to be clear that there are facts, there are opinions, and there are lies. And what Holocaust deniers do is take their lies, dress them up as opinions, maybe edgy or out-of-the-box opinions, and insist that as opinions, they should be part of the conversation. We well know that we live in an age of fake news. Facts are under assault. Social media, for all the gifts it's given us, has also allowed the difference between facts, established facts, and lies to be flattened. Not everything is open to debate. There are indisputable facts, objective truths. The earth is not flat. The climate is changing. Elvis is not alive. Pet dogs and cats are not being kidnapped by middle American immigrants and eaten for supper. Indisputable facts can be singular truths, but often facts can be experienced variously and can support more than one truth, even truths that are at odds. Surely, what is called the dual narrative of Israeli and Palestinian modern history is an example of facts that have been experienced very differently by people living side by side, resulting in truths that are vastly at odds. Instead of recoiling, getting our backs up, can't we say this is complicated? In the microcosm, we know that even members of our own families can diverge in interpreting the facts of our intimate lives, weaving narratives and realities, truths that can all be supported, but come out in such different places, a spectrum of experiences and understandings. Ideally, we want to respect all angles of our families' stories. We want to be curious and accepting, compassionate, for the sake of loving relationships, for the sake of shalom bayit, peace at home. For the sake of ongoing relationships, we need to cultivate humility. For the sake of peace, can't we be humble enough to say, this is complicated? Rabbi Arik's teacher, Rabbi Tirza Firestone, says, this is the work of emet, to move out of our fixed positions and take a seat in the middle, in the place of that mem, the great mother. It asks us to imagine ourselves like this mother letter, to hold all beings as our children, as our brothers, our sisters, to understand that underneath the hardened places in our opponents' hearts, as in our own, is abject fear. And underneath the fear is a tender wound. And underneath that tender wound is a vast opening, an opening as large as the world, as big as our common humanity. Judgment comes from on high, but truth, according to our tradition, springs from the earth, meaning it arises as filtered through disparate, lowly human experience. It's not determined by God or the heavenly court or any ultimate authority. numerous sources, our Midrash tells a story about God's creation of the human. With some variations, the story goes that God had this idea of creating a human and consulted with heavenly advisors. Loving kindness advised God to create the human because the human would be lovingly kind. Righteousness advised God to create the human because the human will enact tzedakah, charity, and social justice. Peace said, don't do it, for the human is essentially quarrelsome. And truth said, don't create the human is drenched in lies. At this, God takes truth and hurls it to the ground. Then God creates the human and sets the human upon the ground. Truth will arise from the earth. Rabbi Jonathan Sacks says it this way: for life to be livable, truth on earth cannot be what it is in heaven. Truth in heaven may be platonic, eternal, harmonious, radiant, but humankind cannot aspire to such truth. And if we do, we will create conflict, not peace. Men kill because they believe they possess the truth, while their opponents are in error. Throwing truth to the ground lets human beings live by a different standard of truth, one that is conscious of its limitations, says Rabbi Sacks. Truth on the ground is multiple, partial. Fragments of it lie everywhere. Each person, culture, and language has part of it. None has it all. Truth on earth is not, nor can it aspire to be, the whole truth. It's limited, not comprehensive, particular, not universal. In heaven, there is truth. On earth, there are truths. Each culture has something to contribute. Each person knows something no one else does. In Pirkei Avot, our sages teach, who is wise? One who learns from all people. The wisest is not the one who knows themselves to be wiser than others. Rather, it is the one who knows all people have some share of truth and is willing to learn from them. When she recently spoke at the United Nations, Rachel Goldberg-Polin, mother of the murdered hostage Hirsch Goldberg-Polin, entreated the assembly. We human beings have been blessed with the gifts of intellect, creativity, insight, and perception. Why are we not using these to solve conflicts all over the world? It is because this is hard. Takes fortitude, imagination, grit, risk, and hope. Instead, said the mother of the murdered hostage, we opt for hatred because it's so comfortable, so familiar, and so very, very easy. Tonight, we pray for the courage to let go of hatred, to let go of our overarching need to win or to be right. We pray, Kol Nidre, all my conceptia, all my concepts I have insisted to be true, I shatter. disavow, release. Tonight, we stop doubling down on our truths. We seek the courage to take the risk of humility and say, I don't agree with you, but I want to hear what you have to say because it's complicated. May it be so.